Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of College Hockey Talk. On today's podcast, I'm joined by Junior from the Sacred Heart women's hockey team, Paige McNeil. Paige, thank you so much for coming on today, and how are you doing?
Of course, thank you for having me. And I'm doing good, just kind of stressed with school and the season picking up. But other than that, it's been a good couple of weeks here at school.
Yeah, you obviously had a game today, it looks like. So I have to ask, how did that game go for yourself, and how would you evaluate this performance of your team so far this season?
I think the game went well. We played Post University, and Post is kind of like a more untraditional team. So our team kind of struggles sometimes with that and adjusting to like how different they are than other teams we play. But we ended up winning 3-0 today, which was good. And I think it was a really important like stepping stone or like building game for us that'll help us for the rest of the season and throughout the year.
Yeah, and obviously, I have to ask, why are you guys playing a game in Tuesday afternoon? That seems like an odd time to play. I'm curious how you have to get prepared for that because most players play on Friday or Saturday. So I'm just curious. That must be weird for yourself to prepare for a Tuesday afternoon game.
It is a little weird, but we added a new team to the new house, so we have to fit in like a bunch of games closer to us where we don't have to like stay overnight. And so we've actually, I think this is our second or third Tuesday game of the year, and we just kind of have to like having an off weekend is hard keeping the momentum and like the excitement going into it. And then Monday we like pregame skate, we try to get game like scenarios, and then when we show up to the rink on Tuesday we get there at like 10:45, and we just try to like have all our teammates backs and get everybody really excited and forget that like we should be in class and like we have business to take care of.
Yeah, and talk about what it's like playing in New Ha and the type of competition you face every night.
Uh, Newhall's been a really fun league to play in. It's kind of been a wild card the past couple years. Like it hasn't been one team leading Newhall the whole my whole 3 years we were here, and I've been here, and I think each team is actually very strong this year. And so I'm excited to get to play the rest of the Newhall point opponents because like they each are very strong teams and they bring like their own very unique skill set to the table. So we've played Long Island and they're obviously a tougher team. They're kind of more of our rival, and we just fell short to them, and then we realized like what we actually have to do to beat them. And then now we played Post a couple times, and we had St. A's this upcoming weekend, and I'm very excited for that.
Yeah, and talk a little bit about your team. Obviously, you have a lot of new players joining the squad this year. So, what's it
Mhm.
been like to acclimate them to the team, and what have you seen from them so far?
I think it's been pretty good. They've adjusted pretty well. We have, I think, 9 freshmen that came in. And so obviously that's a lot of people that have come in, but they fit into the team well. They're figuring out like our plays, our systems, and like our team is known for like really high energy, like never being quiet. And so like they were a little shell shocked to that compared to like how it is in high school where sometimes teams are more quiet and just like, but we're like a very in your face outgoing up and like really peppy team. And so I think they're adjusting pretty well to that, and we're excited to see how they can fit in and mesh with us for the rest of the year.
Now, talking about yourself individually, coming into your junior year, what's your goals and expectations for yourself? And then, obviously, what are your goals and expectations for the team for your third year as well?
I think for myself, I just want to be able to play like a pretty consistent game. Like my freshman year, it was hard because we had 10 games because of COVID. And so we'd go like months without playing a game, and then we'd randomly have a Tuesday game or a Monday game. And then last year, like playing my first year of like real college hockey and playing all our opponents, like adjusting to the series and how everything goes. So I think this year, like I just want to play really consistent and have a really positive mindset going into each game and having like a good game every time. And I think for our team, like I'm pretty sure this is our best team I've had my 3 years here. So I'm really hopeful that all of us can like get on the same page, get in the same mindset where we're like, we can succeed this season. We can do really good and like just take it further and like push our way through that. So I'm really hopeful for the potential our team has this year.
And obviously, you have the new rink coming up this January.
Mhm.
How excited are you for that? And when do you expect to move into that rink and start playing games there?
I am so excited for the rink, and I can say our whole entire team and our coaching staff and the men's team are very excited for the rink. And it's a lot nicer because it's a lot closer to campus for us, and it's like a state of the art facility. Like we have like everything you could ever think of. We have underwater treadmills. We have everything we need right in the rink, and that's like I think that's going to be a huge thing to help grow our program as well. And so we are all very, very excited for that. And I think our first practice in the new rink is going to be either just before Thanksgiving or just after. So we'll start practicing, but then we won't have our home opener until we play Harvard on January 14th.
Oh, nice. Is that an afternoon game? Because I know the men's team's playing Boston College that day. I'm just curious if you guys are opening up the new rink, like you could be the very first game that happens in that.
I believe the men's team is Boston College the day before us. So they're Boston College on Saturday, and then Sunday we play Harvard right after. So the men's team will christen the rink, and then we're going to
Okay,
follow that up. So it's just like a one game weekend for both of us so that our teams can both like finally get in the new rink and play there.
that's awesome. Well, I'm
Mhm.
sort of far away from Sacred Heart, but I look forward to hopefully visiting it one day. I've seen pictures of the new rink. Have you had the chance to go inside it with like the hard hats or anything, or are you just waiting for
We
it to be completed?
we have they brought us in last year at the end of the year, like right before everybody went home, and they let us sign the wall before they put like the drywall up so that our like we're forever going to be in the rink and like that we're part of like the team that is going to bring this new rink to life and all that stuff. So they brought us in, gave us a full tour, showed us the locker rooms, the athletic training rooms, where the figure skaters will be, where the weight room will be, all the upstairs. Like they showed us everything, and it's going to be really, really cool to play in.
Now let's transition a little bit and talk about the off season. How was your off season, and what do you think is the biggest improvement you've made to your game so far this year?
My off season was a bit untraditional. I did have knee surgery this summer, so I was out for a good chunk of that. It was unexpectedly cut short. And so I think the biggest thing that taught me was like the mentality behind my game. Like before, I would just like go, 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 train, lift, skate, all this stuff. But when I had knee surgery and had to stop and couldn't do that, like I had to have the mentality that like when I'm better and am cleared to play, like I will be back and I can like make it up for then and like find a way to like prove that the way I like bounce back from this is just as important as it is as like if I was skating all summer and like being on the ice the whole entire time. And I think that was just like a huge part for me was figuring out the mentality piece of my game.
And how did you make up for lost time this off season?
Um, I just got back into school and I jumped right back into it. My first practice, I was back and was cleared. I didn't take any breaks. I didn't do only half. I didn't do for like I went for the full hour and a half, and I just like I needed to get my legs under me, and I need to get my lungs back and like all that stuff. So I think like just really pushing myself to like the point where it's like a little uncomfortable because obviously a new knee situation is going to be uncomfortable. But I think it was really important to know the difference between pain and just a little bit of uncomfort. And so I pushed myself as much as I could and just like trusted my body and my instincts. And that I think that helped a lot.
And obviously transitioning into this season, has it been more difficult since you didn't really have an off season, or has it been as what you expected it to be?
Um, a little bit of both because I wasn't skating so much in the off season. I was obviously very nervous for the shape I was going to be back in when I got to skate again. And especially with Clarkson being our first opponents of the year, that was a lot because Clarkson's a very good team, and they were really fast. And so it was just a lot to like think about that. But I think it was a good thing kind of at the same time because like I couldn't just get comfortable with where I was at. Because if I skated all summer and was comfortable and was happy where I was at, like I would have gone into that game a little too comfortable. But since it was like I had to work really hard to get back to where I was and prove that I should be in the lineup and in that game, like I think that helped a lot and helped me like figure out how much I can push myself.
And how's the knee doing? Or is it feeling much better? No issues this year so far?
Yeah, it's been pretty good. Just a little stiff, but other than that, it's been really good, which is I'm very thankful for.
Now let's talk about the beginning of your hockey career and kind of work all the way up to where you are today with Sacred Heart. So, just doing research on yourself. You're from Shakopee, Minnesota. Talk about
Mhm.
growing up in Minnesota and how did you start playing hockey?
Growing up in Minnesota is probably like the most fun thing. There's a long winter, so obviously like winter sports are a very prominent thing. And so I first actually started out as a figure skater because that's just obviously where I was like 4 and I was like, "Oh my god, figure skating would be so fun." But then my brother started playing hockey, my older brother started playing hockey, and I was so sick and tired of just going to the rink and watching him. I was like, "Can I just please play?" And so they let me play and I instantly like just loved it and loved how it was more of like a team involved sport instead of like figure skating where it's just yourself. And then since I started playing, my older sister was like, "Oh, I guess I'll play too." And so now all of my siblings have grown up playing hockey.
Would you say you're the best sibling out of all of them at the game, or you don't want to say?
I would think based on where I'm at and that I'm still playing, that would give me a little edge ahead. But my sister played D3, my brother played juniors, and my little sister is still in high school. So my little sister has a lot of potential, and I'm very excited to see her play. But my older 2 siblings kind of fizzled out, and now they're just onto like jobs. And like my brother golfs in college, so he's still keeping himself busy and active. But I think right now I might take the cake for being the best player in the family.
You gotta have that confidence, especially because I know there's gotta be some sibling rivalries between you guys. I don't know, do you do pond hockey in the
Yeah.
winters?
Yes, a lot of pond hockey, and my dad actually would build a rink in our backyard for us. So he, like, filled it with the hose outside of our house and, like, froze it, and we would skate every opportunity we could.
How many body checks did you have to take from your brother and sisters during that? Because I'm assuming would sometimes end up in fights. I never played pond hockey, but everyone that talks from Minnesota that has says they always got in fights with their siblings after the night was over.
Oh, 100%, and, like, our boards, they weren't, like, full boards because, like, it was obviously in my backyard, we're not gonna have, like, the best state of the art rink, and so my brother would hit me, and it would take your feet out. It would, like, tabletop you, and then you just go flying into the snow, and there's countless times that I would do that.
So,
He would just always try to do that, and I just had to take it.
did you ever do it to him once or not? Unfortunately,
I
never.
would try. I would try. I was just a lot smaller than him, so it
Yeah.
just did not work out.
Who was your favorite player growing up? Was it someone in the NHL or was it a women's player in the national team?
I had a mix, like 2. One of obviously Miracle's a huge hockey movie, and so, like, watching Jack O'Callahan was one of my favorite players, and, like, watching that movie and, like, seeing what he did and then his career in the NHL. But I think, and he still is Alexander Ovechkin. I always liked him. I took family pictures in his jersey in 2013. Like, it's been a long time that he's been my favorite player, and I like love the way he can score and how he always puts the puck in the back of the net.
Do you Sally like him when you score?
Actually, the last goal I scored, I'd cellied really good, but before that one, like, hands are just instantly in the air, like, just above my head, nothing else. But now I'm, like, trying to, like, get a better celly game,
Mhm.
but I can't really think on my feet like that. It's really hard.
All I can say is if it's like a big goal, you have to like start screaming and then like slam in the glass like he does. Like I
Yeah,
would love to see that because I feel like if you did that, that would go viral because obviously for a big goal, you have to have a big celebration.
exactly. I might have to try that if I score in the new rink.
All right, that'll be a great goal. First goal in the new rank to
Yeah,
do an OV celebration. Like that's the
yeah,
best way to start it off, in my opinion.
yeah, that would be exciting.
Have you ever seen him play in person before?
I have. So, obviously, growing up playing high school hockey in Minnesota is, like, a lot crazy schedule, like, just all sorts of everything, and whenever the Capitals would come play Minnesota, I'd always have a game, so I would never be able to go watch. So, my dad one year surprised me with tickets to the Washington Capitals game in Washington, DC, so he flew me out to DC. It was a weekend for me and him, and we watched the game, and it was definitely one of my favorite trips I've ever been on, and it, like, meant a lot that he thought of me and how much I like that team and wanted
Yeah.
to like let me see him play live, which was really exciting.
That's awesome. And obviously, Miracle is one of my favorite movies. I can quote that movie from front to bottom, but
Hmm.
pretty much. So I have to ask, what's your
Yeah.
favorite scene from that movie?
Um, I love the one when they're like playing really badly against Sweden and he gets like really fired up in the locker room and someone's hurt and he's like yelling at them and
Oh
then they both
yeah,
start just going at it and like everybody has to like pull him apart. And then he walks out of the locker room and says that'll get him going. Like that is
yeah.
I just think that's like such a good scene where he like purposely like fired them up really bad and like got in their head and like under their skin and like made them get to that point. I just think that's so funny.
Yeah, I think the line of is like you're playing this game like it's a throwaway game in Rochester,
Hmm.
and like
Yeah.
who are we playing? Like Sweden. Damn right, Sweden. And he like throws the stuff in
And then
the
he just slams the table.
yeah.
Yeah.
My favorite scene from that movie. So I'm a New England guy, so I love Jim Craig just because he's from around here. And when he Jim Craig gets pissed at him because he let in like I don't know like 7 or 8 goals in that one game. Herb Brooks like I think about sitting you down, Jim, and he's like, oh, because I didn't take your test. And he's like, I want to see the guy in the net that didn't take the test, and like that fires me up so much because I'm a big goalie
Yeah.
guy. So that's probably my favorite scene.
Yeah, that's a good scene. I can picture that perfectly, the way he, like, chases him down the sidewalk and, like, finds him and, like, continues the conversation.
Yeah. Now, kind of getting back to your career a little bit. So you played for your you played your high school hockey in Minnesota. So talk about what that was like for you and what school did you go to and talk about that experience, I guess, as a whole.
So, I went to Shakopee High School. It's, like, a small little suburb 20 minutes from the Twin Cities, which is the most well-known place in Minnesota, so, like, that's kinda just, like when I say where I'm from, I'm just say I'm from the cities. And Minnesota high school hockey is honestly a completely different thing to play in. It is just so crazy to see how, like, every team is so good, how there's so many, like, talented players and how, like, just the dynamic behind it, and, like, I didn't really realize how different it was from hockey in, like, the New England area until I, like, came to school here. Because like, there's, like, 1 prep school in Minnesota, and that's Shattuck St. Mary, and, like, other than that, you play for the town you grew up in or, like, went to school in, and, like, out here, you find a prep school. Normally, you don't play at a public school, and, like, that's completely different where, like, in Minnesota, public schools are the most common places to play, and then there's, like, a couple smaller private schools, but other than that, like, prep school is not really a thing for us, and, like, it was just probably one of the most competitive atmospheres and, like, trying to make it to the state tournament and trying to make it to the XL Energy Center and, like, prove to like the state and the city like that you are a good hockey team and you should be where you are.
Yeah, that was kind of my next question. What's the Minnesota high school hockey scene like? Because I'm from New England and I don't know, it's just like our high school hockey scene like is popular, I feel like in certain areas if you like go to a big prep school, but outside of that, like you really don't see too many people care too much about high school hockey. I feel like here in New England it's more of a college hockey place. I feel like in Minnesota
Yeah,
it's more of a high school hockey place.
high school hockey is huge in Minnesota. So the XL Energy Center is where the Wild play like our professional team. And when it gets around to the state tournament time, like when it's the boys state tournament, they sell out the whole arena because how competitive the games are and how bad people want to go and watch it. Like for school, like my high school gave school off for the state tournament so everybody could go watch and everybody could go do that. Like it's such a common thing to like miss school in that weekend in February or March to go watch because like everybody wants to see it. And like I think that's like really cool because normally when you play a high school sport not very many people come and it's just like it is what it is and you play for like your parents, but this is hockey is huge and it was like more than just a game to like a lot of people, which was really cool.
Yeah, did you ever make the state tournament yourself?
I did not fell short. I think my closest I got was junior year. We made it to the section final and we barely lost 4-3 to Minnetonka, which was heartbreaking, but it is what it is.
Yeah, that's a solid team though. I feel like a lot of D1 players are
Mhm.
from there.
Yes, Minnetonka is a very good hockey team. So we lost to a good team and it was a very close game. So it was good.
What's like your best memory you have playing high school hockey?
Um, I think one of my favorite memories was when it got to section time and, like, for playoffs, and we were tied with Holy Family, which was one of our rivals in high school, and the rink was so full of all like, there was a huge student section, parents, everything, it was completely full. I had all my family friends there, and I scored in overtime to win the game,
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
after I scored, when Holy Family scored to tie up the game, they celebrated and jumped into, like, the glass, so after I scored in overtime, I did the same thing, and, like, the whole team came after, and it was, like that was, like, really cool.
That's awesome.
Mhm.
Now, how did your high school hockey experience help prepare you for college, with Sacred Heart?
I think I had to overcome, like, a lot of different adversities in high school hockey and, like, injuries and just, like, fighting through and, like, having to be, like, super physical, and I think that helped a lot because college is obviously a way more intense, game, and so I'm really grateful I grew up playing where I did because, like, no games were ever a cakewalk. Like, we had to fight for every win we got, and I think that was a huge thing that shaped where I am to come and play college because, like, I knew it wasn't gonna be easy and I was gonna have to fight to be on the team, to get in the lineup, to be in each game, and so I think that was a really good lesson to learn in high school before I came to college.
And obviously, is it weird talking to your teammates now about it just because, like you said, it's a lot different in other places? Do you think it's weird to hear other people's high school hockey experiences, just how different it is, I guess, than Minnesota? Because I know you have a few Minnesotan players on the team, but I know there's some that
Mhm.
aren't from there.
Yeah, it's, like, really crazy to think about, like, kids on my team, like, girls on my team, they went and, like, boarded for 4 years of high school, so they left home at, like, 14 and were just off, and it was, like it's crazy to think that, like, they're doing college twice, like, high school and a boarding school where you stay there, you're in a dorm, you do all your classes there, you go home on breaks, it's like they were really prone to the college life because they pretty much did it already. And, like, I think that's just crazy to think how, like, their high school experience is pretty much the exact same they're doing right now for college, and, like, I could never process being away from home that early in my life, and that to play hockey and to pursue the career, because it's just was so normal where I'd wake up at my house, drive 5 minutes to my little high school in my town, and then go to hockey, and then end up back at home.
Now, talk a little bit about your recruitment process to Sacred Heart. What made you want to go to the East Coast, and what made Sacred Heart the school for you?
I always kinda wanted to go far away from home. I only toured one Minnesota school, and it was St. Cloud, and I just like, it wasn't the right fit, and I just knew, like, I wanted to go experience my own thing, and so I only toured East Coast schools, and that was, like, my thing, and Sacred Heart actually came to Minnesota and watched me, and, like, that's how they first found out about me, but the game they watched, I was playing defense, so when they reached out, they were like, "Oh, you're a really good defense," and I was like, "I play forward, though." And so after that, they recruited me as a forward. They brought me out. I went on my official visit and like we're doing a lot of updates to the school. It's not just like the new rink is coming, like we have brand new dorms popping up. We have a state of the art athletic facility that just came for everybody, not just athletes. And like it was a very like high tech, well kept, like very nice college. And I think seeing that how like and it was small. It was like a small community, not huge everywhere, and, like, I think that's really what drew me to it was, like, how nice the buildings are and how they are actively trying to grow the college as well, and so that's kinda what drew me, and it just felt like the really good fit when I was walking around campus, like a homey place to be.
Now, what was like the biggest adjustment you had to make to college hockey? Was it the speed of the game, the physicality, or just the balance of academics and hockey?
Definitely the speed and the physicality. The academics portion is it's a lot easier because like high school you go for 7 hours a day and then you go to hockey, but like I have one class every day and then I do hockey and like whatever I need. And so like the adjustment was definitely how physical the girls are and how fast they are. And like they're not just like if you go in the corner with them, they're not just going to give you the puck. They're not going to not touch you. Like you are going to get like ripped apart. And like So that was an adjustment to, like, how physical I needed to be, and obviously, like, I'm tall, so my size helps me with that, and so I think that was just, like, a huge adjustment for me still.
Luckily, you're used to it though with the checks that you took in the pond hockey days back in the day. So you must have been used to it. You probably don't get knocked around too much now, I would assume.
Not too bad, but when I fall, it's kind of like a tree falling over. I'm not the most graceful when I fall, but I try not to fall.
Have you ever delivered a check yourself? I know they say body checking isn't allowed in women's hockey, but I tend to think that's a kind of a bad rule in my opinion. But I'm curious if it ever has happened accidentally with yourself.
Definitely. There's some refs let you play a lot more physical than others. And so like there's some that are like a clear check that should be a penalty, but they let it slide. But then there's others like I really remember playing Long Island where like I should not have hit the girl and I did, and obviously I got a penalty for it. So like I have my fair share of those.
Now, talk a little bit about your freshman year at Sacred Heart. Obviously, you only played 10 games due to COVID, and I only think like two teams. You only played like one or two teams, if I'm not mistaken, that
Yeah.
season. So, how weird was that for you? And I guess when you look back on it now, do you appreciate your freshman year more, or do you just try to forget about it?
It was really weird. The only teams we played were Long Island, Robert Morris, and Quinnipiac. And we practiced for 6 months to play 10 games, which is obviously a lot and, like, really grueling on the body, and it was just, like, really weird, but looking back, I probably wouldn't change it because, like, that's just part of the process, part of wherever I needed to be at that time, but it's, like, crazy to think how different everything was when I was a freshman, like, how restricted everything was, how we could, like, barely do anything, and, like, campus was pretty much empty when I was a freshman because, like, they gave the option for all online school, and, like, a lot of students took that option. And then we have winter intersession, and they sent all non-student like, everybody home except men's and women's basketball, men's and women's ice hockey, and we were the only 4 teams, like, only people on campus for 4 months. They sent them home at Thanksgiving and didn't bring them back until February, and so, like, that was really, really weird because, like, you're not alone at college, but for my first year, like, it was just the 4 teams and, like, we were alone.
Yeah, and how'd you adjust? Was it like you couldn't really bond, I assume, with your teammates because everything was so restricted? So that must have been tough as well.
Yeah, it was very restricted. We could barely see our teammates, which was, like, hard because obviously you wanna get close with your teammates, and, like, we did the best we could. We would always try to, like, hang out outside or, like, do something where we could all be together, but obviously it was a bit of a weird dynamic, but I think it was okay. We tried to adjust well. A lot of people was just, like, when you're stuck in that situation, being isolated so often, like, a lot of people are down in the dumps because, like, that's a normal human reaction being locked away for so long. But I think we did pretty well, and we had a good year for the most of the year when we could try to.
And obviously, your sophomore year, your team played very well, including yourself, as you had one of your career years in college hockey as of this point. You unfortunately though lost in the New Haas semifinals to Franklin Pierce. So I guess what how have you used that game for this season? So have you used it as motivation, or is it one of those things where you try to forget about it and move on? I'm curious if like I personally will use it for motivation, but I was just curious what your team how you have reflected on that game since it happened.
That was a really hard game for our team. Like, after that game, I think we all sat in the locker room and, like, did not move for a very long time because, like, that was a winnable game. We needed to play better than we did, and I think we all knew that and acknowledged that. And so I think we're letting that fuel this year because, like, we don't wanna have games where we don't play the full 60 minutes. Like, if we take 10 minutes off, like, they're going to capitalize on opportunities like that. And so I think we're really using that and, like, experiencing that and never wanting to feel that feeling again. And so I think it's a big motivation factor for a lot of people because, like, this year is huge for us. Like, we wanna win, we wanna ring.
Now, obviously, is that the game you're looking forward to the most this season? Or I guess when you look at your schedule, what a game excites you the most? Like, what are you most looking forward to this season?
That's kinda hard. I am excited to play Franklin Pierce to see what they have to offer and what we have to offer and how much we've grown.
They have a
But
lot
I
of
also
Minnesota
just wanna
players
play
on the
all
team, so.
They do. And I want to just play pretty much all the New Ha teams. Like Stonehill's new in New Ha. And so like we want to see what Stonehill has to offer. And so I think it's just going to be a huge year in the New Ha games, and I'm very excited for that. And then obviously the rink opener, I'm very excited for.
Now we're now in a segment I like to call the non-hockey segment, where I ask you a couple of non-hockey questions just to get to know you a little bit more off the ice. So first question is, who is the funniest teammate you have on at Sacred Heart?
I think the funniest teammate might have to be number 2 Sophie Lapone or number 12 Katie Keenan. They are both very funny in their own ways. Where like Katie's like witty, but Sophie is just like, it's just everything she always says is like so funny. So they're both very funny.
Who has the best style on the team? Obviously you do. So, but I'm talking about like who's number
Mhm.
two on the list, like who's looking the best when the pregame outfits show up to the rink.
Definitely number 16, Lizzie Jacobson. She's a fashion major. So obviously she is going to have some very fantastic game day fits. So she definitely takes the cake for that.
Now, who do you think is your celebrity lookalike?
Hmm. Let's see. I don't really know. Well, I don't look anything like her face-wise, but, like, the height and the blonde hair could be Blake Lively. Just going based on, like, blonde hair and height, I think that would be the closest.
Yeah. Honestly, I feel like you look a lot like Paige Beckers, the women's basketball player.
Oh, yeah. She's from Minnesota too.
Yeah. So that's just my opinion, but I don't know. Two really good answers in my opinion, though.
Mhm.
Now, last non-hockey question is music. What are you into now, and what do you listen to before a game?
Before the games, I'm pretty consistently, like, rap because that just, like, gets, like, the good game day vibe and, like, get me ready for the game. But I'm a big fan of country and EDM and also this artist. My brother actually introduced me to them. He's called Saint John. I He's currently my favorite person to listen to, so that's kind of my vibe for music.
Now, getting back to some hockey questions. Now, first one is, what should be done to help grow women's hockey, in your opinion?
What? Sorry, what was that?
What should be done to help grow women's hockey, in your
Oh,
opinion? I had a little bit of a voice.
I
I'm sorry.
you're okay. I think we should be able to broadcast all our games just as much as the men's teams are. Like the men's teams are very broadcasted, very well found, and like I know a lot of that is like university wide and like based on how the university has different medias, and like that stinks because they're 1,300 miles away, and obviously I want them to see my games. And so I think to grow college hockey and to let more people see that, like we need to be able to get it out. It needs to be streamed for people to find.
Now, do you have any shout outs you want to give to any of your teammates, family members, friends? I know we mentioned some of them throughout the podcast, but if there's any we forgot to mention, feel free to give them a shout out.
Definitely my family, my parents, all my siblings. Like, I think my brother is honestly one of the biggest motivators because he's just super competitive and like he would never give me an inch. Like, I had to earn all of that. And like, I think he sees that and like respects that. All my family members, my little sister, like her still playing hockey and me, like I coach her hockey team and like her seeing me and like that role model. And then my parents are a huge factor in where I am today because obviously being so far away from home and having to learn new experiences on my own, like I need to rely on them a lot. And they've done a very good job accommodating to that. And I just think in general, this is probably one of the most fun teams I've been on in all of my hockey career. And I'm very thankful for all of my teammates. And like I'm very close with a lot of them. Like I mentioned, Katie, and there's like a bunch of other sophomores like Nikki and Karen and Carly, like all of them I am unbelievably close with. And like same with Stas. And so I'm really lucky to have found my people on the team that have like helped make school in general a lot easier for me. And so I'm really glad that I'm on like my most favorite team yet, because that's going to make this year really exciting and really fun and huge for us.
Well, I just want to say thank you so much, Paige, for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate your time. It really means so much to myself, and I can't wait to see you play in this season. I know you're going to do great things, and you're one of my favorite players on the Sacred Heart women's hockey team. So I wanted to let you know that, but it really means a lot for you to come on. So thank you again. I really appreciate it.
Yes, of course. Thank you so much for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Now, one question I do want